I wanted to make a video to document my feelings about the last few weeks and the verdict of not guilty on all counts when it is regarding to Officer Yanez and Philando Castile, who was brutally murdered, and I will say murdered, in front of his family, and his girlfriend Diamond Reynolds posted it live on Facebook in order to have a documentation of what had happened so that there wasn't any discrepancy, so that perhaps her boyfriend could see justice. Before I start this commentary, I want to extend my love and support to the Castile family and his friends and the children that went to school where he worked. I don't have the words to describe how deeply, deeply sorry I am that this happened to your family and that you had to witness not only this happen, but you in person for Diamond Reynolds and her daughter, but also for those who saw it on Facebook who might have known Philando. And I'm just so very sorry, and I know that there's no words that can give you any level of solace or comfort, but I want the Castile family, especially Valerie Castile, his mother, to know that we are so deeply sorry, and we stand behind you, and we have been fighting for the last year that your son would see justice, and he did not. And I am deeply, deeply sorry for the fact that you are going through what you're going through. My second apology and offer of support I want to give to the black men of this country. Every day I fear for the lives of black men when it comes to dealing with the police. And I don't know how you guys feel. I can't put myself in the position to understand what it must feel like to be automatically considered a threat just because of your existence. I personally am a woman, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen to women, because it happened to Sandra Bland, and it's happened to many other black women where they've been brutally killed and murdered, and there was nothing done, no justice served. But I can't imagine what it's like for you to go out into this world every day with so much back pressed up against you, so much pressure, and to have to fear. And for the mothers and fathers out there that have black children, especially those who have black boys, I've had so many people write to me privately saying they don't even know how to explain this to their children, if they fear for their kids' lives. And I want to just extend my deepest, deepest thoughts of support and love, and my condolences for all of you that have experienced any level of abuse from our governmental officials. I don't even, that part I just wanted to get out of the way. Not out of the way, but I wanted first and foremost to say those things. He's just weighing heavy on my heart. I've spent the last day crying and trying to figure out what has happened and what's happening to our country and how we are so divided. I understand it historically, but I don't understand it emotionally, because I am a person who tends to try to find the good in people, almost to a fault. I try to find the good qualities in humanity. But right now, I honestly have to say that I'm struggling. I'm struggling to make sense of a world where I feel that I don't have a place, and that my life doesn't matter, and the lives of the people that I love don't matter. It's disheartening. I feel ashamed that I'm a resident and a native of the Twin Cities. I went to Highland Park Senior High. Many of my friends went to Central High School, where Philando also went to school. He graduated in the early 2000s. I graduated in 99, so he was my age. And I can't fathom the pain that people must be feeling that knew him, because I am just watching my timeline, and it's just full of grief and full of sadness and confusion. I don't understand why we live in a country that is so hateful towards especially black men, but also to people who are in marginalized communities, that we perpetuate the system of white supremacy. People say, well, the cop wasn't white, he can't be racist. This is not about individuals being racist. This is about a country and a world that assigns criminality, goodness, believability, and truthfulness to the color of your skin, to an arbitrary factor of whether or not your skin produces a certain amount of melanin, how much curl your hair has, how wide set your nose is. These are the things that are used to determine whether or not someone is a good person, whether or not someone is a bad person, and whether or not their life matters and whether or not they'll see justice in this country. I don't want to just focus on the bad that I saw. I saw a lot of good things. I had a lot of my friends, especially my white friends, who are activists and people who are striving to understand the depths of white supremacy in this country and how it is so entrenched into the mindset of all of us. You know, lately I've been trying to check my own anti-blackness and my own white supremacist thoughts of assigning certain qualities to people based upon things that may even be subconscious, my own subconscious biases. And I really want to thank the friends that I have that have been so supportive, that know how deeply passionate I am about these issues, and for good reason. But what I want to say to all of us that are struggling, that are activists, that are affected by this and so many other things that are going on, is that we know that these aren't just news blips. They aren't just things that have happened and that will go away. These are problems that we face every day, you know. And I want you guys to know that we are struggling and that we have to continue to fight. We have to continue to resist. We have to resist the pull to move back and reverse and go back into a time and a place where we are so separated and so segregated that we lose sight on each other's humanity despite the amount of melanin we have in our skin. You know, it's disheartening to read some of the comments. I couldn't even go on city pages. I can't read the comments there because it is so hard to look at the levels of racism and people saying, yeah, he did a good job. He did his job. He should be paid, you know, for what he did. The fact that he killed a black man and people were saying that he did his job well and that he got off with no charges, no justice brought to the situation. You know, I've watched people say, well, I feel bad for both of the parties. Both were tragic. No, let's get it straight. Let's not start this false equivalence bullshit. It is not the same for Officer Yanez, because regardless of the fact that he may have lost his job and his reputation, he has his life. He has his life. He has a family to go home to. His family can hold him. They can hug him. They can depend on him. They can talk to him. Philando, his family lost somebody who was very important to them, very, very instrumental, not only in his family, but in his community. And to watch his name be dragged through the mud as he served our children food in the school system is heartbreaking. I don't care about the fact that he smoked weed. Half the country smokes weed. If that's a reason to kill somebody without a trial, violating his Second Amendment right to bear arms and his Sixth Amendment right to have a trial by jury, a speedy trial by jury of his peers. Because it often feels like when this happens to black people that they are on trial instead of the people who committed the act against them. And I just want to share with you guys my own personal story. Something that happened last year that terrified me, absolutely terrified me, so that maybe you can understand what people are going through and why, especially people of color, especially black people, are feeling the way that they feel right now. It was within the week that Sandra Bland had been stopped by the police, and she had been dragged out the car, and under very suspicious circumstances, she ended up losing her life in police custody. And as I was sitting in my parking lot checking Facebook, because I'm a decompressor, I need to decompress before I come into the house, and I was watching YouTube videos and checking my Facebook because I don't do that while I'm driving. And I was sitting in my car, and an officer pulls up next to me and asked me, "Is everything okay?" I said, "Yeah, I'm just checking my Facebook because I don't do that while I'm driving." And I went back to my Facebook. I didn't want to have any interaction with this officer because I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was sitting in my car, and that's not illegal, and it's certainly not illegal to check your Facebook. And at some point, I didn't want to sit in the car anymore because the guy just sat there in his car next to me, and I started to feel really uncomfortable. So I got up, and I started walking to my apartment, and the guy was just rolling slowly next to me, almost behind me, to the side where I could see his car, but I couldn't quite see the officer. I couldn't quite see his face or what he looked like or what he was doing. And I didn't know whether to walk slowly or to walk fast. I didn't know whether to put my phone down or to keep looking at my phone. I didn't really know how to act. I didn't know how my behavior was going to be interpreted. And this guy just rolls next to me. And then when I turn to go towards my apartment building, he speeds off, and he just skirted out of there. And it was terrifying. It was terrifying that I was being followed in my own apartment building, a place where my husband and I pay a lot of money to live in a nice neighborhood. Because see, we moved out of Los Angeles. We moved out of downtown LA because we lived in a poverty-stricken neighborhood, and we lived in a neighborhood that was full of violence. And after my father passed away, I thought, you know what, we need a break from this, living in a tourist area that was very violent. You know, I want to live in an area where I don't have to fear, walking home, and here I am, and I have an officer just following me for no reason, harassing me. I wasn't doing anything. A week after a woman was brutally killed by the police, a black woman who got no justice. And I just want you guys to understand that when we're going through this, our emotions about it, that this is real for us. That we are feeling, it's not a news blip to us. This was somebody that people knew and people loved. And every single case that you hear, from Eric Garner to Philando Castile to Sandra Bland, and I could keep going on and on. I can't even name all the people offhand of the stories that I've read and followed. That these are real people with real lives, and that their lives matter. When we say Black Lives Matter, it's not an implication that all lives don't matter, or that some lives matter more than others. What we are saying is an affirmation that we matter too, and that we shouldn't be subjected to a certain type of treatment because of the color of our skin. And Philando Castile, he might have smoked weed. Whatever personal decisions he made, I can't judge that because I'm not in a position to judge anybody. I make bad decisions all the time. But I don't think that people should die because they have a tail light out and because they have a wide set nose. And like I said, I am absolutely ashamed of my state, and I am absolutely ashamed of the city that I come from. Not because of the people. The people are what keep giving me strength and helping me move on. But I'm ashamed that I live in a place where there is so much hate towards Black people and people of color. And I hope that, especially with this Trump administration that's trying as hard as they can to roll back any level of progress that we've made so that we can see some level of equality in this society, I hope that, in the depths of this administration, that people can find it in their heart to start listening to people of color and marginalized communities. And as we celebrate Pride this month, that we realize that the reason why we celebrate Pride is not for people to be able to go dance and to be crazy. It's because people are out here dying and they don't feel safe. When you are a person of color, when you are a person in the LGBTQ community, when you are in a marginalized space, that you don't feel safe in this world, and then there's no place for you. So as people are mobilizing and they're creating safe spaces for them to talk about their feelings and about their emotions, please do not bombard and Columbus their spaces. Please understand that these spaces exist because we are pushed out of every other space until we have to create our own. And when we create our own, those spaces are taken over. I want everyone to think about loving each other and to think about, what are we going to do next? What is the next step? What is our game plan? And I'm not just talking about black folks and activists. I'm talking about you sitting here. If you even made it to this part of the video, because most people probably have unfollowed me or stopped listening, but if you've made it to this part of my video, I want you to really think about what you're going to do to make this world a better place, to actively not just say you're not racist, but to be anti-racism, to fight against white supremacy, to fight against these things that divide us, and people are dying over these things. And one last thing I can ask is that if you know a black man or you see a black man today, give him a hug and tell him that you love him and that his life matters. Just hug a black man today. Tell him that you are special and that we're fighting for you. And again, to the family, the Castile family, I am so sorry for your loss. And I'm so sorry for what you're going through. And I'm sorry that you had to watch not only your family member and loved one die, but you had to watch him die again in court and have his character assassinated by the court of public opinion. I'm just so upset. And I'm sorry to everyone who's feeling pain right now. I love all of you guys. And to black men, I'm so sorry that you have to deal with this.